And I can see how in every single situation, there's an idea that you can believe or there's the truth about the situation, right? And it's like learning to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth in every situation was different, but it was still learning to worship him.
Well, welcome to Freed Indeed, the show where we drop the religious performance and just talk about what it actually looks like to live free in Christ. I'm Rich, and this is my wife, Kirsten, the person who makes me look good.
Hello, everyone. So glad you're here today. We have a special guest with us in the studio, our friend Carolyn Geraci. We're going to talk about perseverance and what that looks like in the Christian life. So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So good to have you. Well, we always ask everybody the same question to get things started. What is your earliest memory of God?
That is such a cool question. And what's so interesting for me is I don't have memories without God. I was raised in a Christian home, and honestly, from the earliest memories I have, I remember having dreams about the Lord. I remember feeling the presence of the Lord. Like it's just always been a part of my life. And there was a season where I felt like, man, I don't really have a testimony of being lost and found, but I'm like, man, now I've come to appreciate how precious that is, that I can remember him at such a young age, you know,
Wow.
Being present with me, having dreams and visions, even as just a young kid.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah.
Was there a point that you just decided like respond to the gospel, like, or do you just feel like you were saved just because you always believed it?
I definitely, I remember praying a sinner's prayer when I was probably like 5 and getting gummy worms. And I'm like, that's probably an interesting way to
I was
go about that
by M&Ms
in Sunday school.
More of a chocolate guy.
That's too funny.
But I feel like I've always known him, you know. And then I do remember I was in high school when Columbine High School happened, and that was just a real wake up moment for me, feeling like the Lord stirred my heart, like this is not a game and there are real lives at stake, you know. And I think that really lit a fire under me. At the time I was homeschooled, but I went to high school for my senior year and ended up starting a Bible study with friends and just being like, all right, we got to be all in, you know?
Yeah,
so,
good.
but truly just felt like I've known the Lord forever.
Yeah. Did you guys go through that phase, like maybe third grade or so, where you would say the sinner's prayer like 4 times a day, like just to make sure I'm legit saved, Lord? I probably did that for a couple of weeks. Like,
I don't know if I did that. I definitely,
That's you.
I just want to make sure.
That's a you
that's
thing.
hilarious. I definitely got baptized 3 times, which I don't think was necessary. I think I did once at like 5 and then once with my cousin when I was 10. And then when I was 16 and I felt like the Lord had really spoken to me, I was like, okay, I want to do this.
This time I mean it.
For me, for real. Yeah. And I really felt the presence of the Spirit at that one. And that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
So,
Well, today we're talking about perseverance, which is not the most glamorous Christian quality. You know, I don't feel like we praise people for their perseverance very much when we talk about heroes of the faith, but it seems like one of the most important qualities in the Christian life. So that's why we asked you to come on the show, because you have quite a story. Would you feel comfortable sharing some of your story with us?
For sure.
Yeah, start wherever you want.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was thinking on the way over here, I'm like, you know, everyone has a story. Everyone. I mean, it's part of life, but also as believers, like we all know, it's not ever going to just be an easy road. And so, I'm grateful to share, but I also feel like I don't think I've been through anything worse than anyone else. You know, it's my story and it's what the Lord has brought us through. So, and I'm hoping that he can just minister to people through that in some way. So I think for me, I would start about 10 years ago. We church planted in Charleston, South Carolina, and that was about 2012 that we started our church. It was going really well. It was an awesome church. We had you know, it was maybe 100 people, but a lot of people our age with kids. And it just felt like we did life together. It was so good.
So this was you and your husband?
Yes.
And your 3 daughters?
We
at
had
the
3
time?
girls. Yeah. I had just had a newborn. So we had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-month-old when we started our church. And it started as just a Bible study. And then it grew to about 100 people. And I started right after I had my 3rd daughter. I started having just really weird health things that would just kind of come and go, and it progressively got worse, but it was something I kept really quiet because I didn't feel, I don't know, like I guess I just didn't want people to worry about me. But it got pretty debilitating. So our 4th year of church planting, I was having such severe neurological issues that I was struggling to drive and walk, really just dizzy all the time, forgetting words, which sounds like, oh yeah, that could be a lot of things. But started getting vision issues, hearing issues, just really strange things happening.
Was that terrifying?
Yeah.
I mean, was that so
completely.
scary?
It was
Yeah.
completely terrifying. I honestly thought I must have had like a brain tumor or something because I was like, what else could it be? Started going down the road of getting different doctor's appointments. I think I saw 6 specialists, and I'd get blood work done and they'd be like, you definitely have an autoimmune issue, but we don't know what's going on. Saw all kinds of neurologist, immunologist, rheumatologist, everything, you know, and they couldn't figure it out. So at the same time as that was happening, the Lord was speaking to my husband that we were supposed to move back to Denver. And he came to me and was like, hey, I feel like I need to let you know this. And I was like, there is no way that's the Lord. And I was like, but just in case, I will
100
pray.
people, that's a great church plan. That's a good start.
I was like, just in case, I'll pray. I'll ask the Lord, you know, if you're wrong to show you, but if I'm wrong, he'll show me. So at the same time as we're trying to figure out my health stuff, I'm like praying like, okay, Lord, I know that this isn't from you, but you know, if I'm wrong, I guess just show me that, you know, we're supposed to go back to Denver. Well, we came for a visit during Christmas, and my sister-in-law at the time was like, let's try this integrated doctor and just see if they can help you. And so I went and saw them. They ran a bunch of tests, and she pretty much immediately knew what was going on in my body, which blew my mind because I'm like, I've been testing for over a year, but she said, you have so much mold in your body that is affecting you neurologically. Wow. And I was like, that was the last thing I would have thought, you know, and we did have mold in our condo, and we had mold in our townhouse. All the houses we lived in Charleston had mold because it's humid, you know? And she said, this is going to be really hard to hear, but the only way for you to heal is going to be to move back to Denver.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Dang it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I broke down in her office. I started crying, and I was like, you don't understand. We have this church and I can't leave. And she's like, I get it. I'm a missionary daughter. And she grew up on the mission field. And she's like, let me pray over you. So she prayed over me in her office. And then she's like, I'm going to offer you some treatments for free. She's like, but I would recommend not even going back to the state of South Carolina. Like, I would just stay here and never go back. And I was like, well, that's not an option. Like, no one even knew I was sick because, like I said, I had been really keeping it to myself. So I went home and I told John, I'm like, remember how I was praying for the Lord to tell me if I was wrong? I'm like, well, it turns out I was wrong. So he was pretty shocked as I was to hear, you know, what it was. So we had to. Was
it a relief just to know, though, finally what
yeah,
it is?
in some ways, I was like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
You know, something is definitely happening in my body. So on that trip, we called my parents because my parents live out in South Carolina as well. And we just kind of told them what was going on. Of course, it was this huge shock, but my doctor said, you cannot go back into your house. And so I had to call my parents and say, hey, can we move in with you? I'm really sick. We got to move back to Denver. And that was a devastating conversation to have with my family. And I had not shared much of my illness with them either. So they were pretty surprised. So we had to go back to Charleston, announce to our church that we were leaving. And I never stepped foot in my house again. And it was really hard. You know, 3 little girls. John had to pack the whole house up by himself. And that was a huge moment of grief for me because I probably more than I should have felt like the church belonged to us, you know, like, and we know that it doesn't, but it's hard not to have that feeling when you have started a church from the ground up and you've watched it grow. And so I had to do a lot of wrestling with the Lord through that season. Like, you know, we tilled the ground, we planted the soil, and now we don't get to see the fruit. And I was so sad about that.
How did people at church respond when you told them?
Our church was amazing.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, most everybody, I mean, of course they were shocked, but most everybody was like, well, you guys need to do what the Lord has told you. And if this is how you're going to heal, you need to go. And it was really cool. The pastor that ended up taking over, he had dreams, and we had dreams of him taking over. So the Lord just kind of made it so clear who was supposed to take over the church. And they're still there.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
we get to go back and visit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the mold didn't affect anyone else in the family? It was
No.
just you.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Through some blood tests and stuff, I do have like some genetic mutations, which make me more
Prone.
susceptible to mold illness and stuff. So,
Wow.
but it took a while after we moved back. So we moved back in 2016. And it really was mostly just focusing on like eating healthy and obviously staying away from mold, being in a drier climate. But it took a couple years to feel back to myself.
Wow.
So, yeah.
My goodness. So you moved back to Denver.
Moved back to Denver.
Nice dry climate.
Yeah. John had felt, like I said, that the Lord was telling him it was time to come back. And the timing was interesting because his dad was like, I'm starting to feel like I need to hand the church off. And I think you're the one. So he kind of was preparing John during that season. So it was a good time. It was about 4 years of preparation and transition where I was able to heal and focus on my health. And he was kind of helping his dad.
And his dad had a church like for decades, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think how old it was at the time. At least 20 years old.
Yeah,
so
it
a
had to
very
be at least
well
20.
Well-established church. Yeah. And well-known.
Yes.
I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah. His dad's like kind of a local.
The radio answer man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Christian answer man. So yeah, a lot of people know, still to this day, people are like, you're related to Gino Geraci. I'm like, yes,
Yes.
I am. So then we were slated to take over the church in 2020. So we did January 2020. And then, as you all know, the world shut down in March, which I feel like was kind of a blessing because it allowed people who didn't feel like they were supposed to stay to just kind of move on. And we went straight to online teaching and worship. And so people found John online, and people that connected with his teaching started to come. So it kind of worked itself out. We only shut down for maybe 6 weeks, but we ended up losing multiple, like 2 to 3, I'm trying to remember, congregants basically to suicide at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And so we were like, we're losing more people to depression and isolation than we are to COVID. So we're going to open back up. So we did, and things were going well. I mean, it was kind of felt like a church plant all over again because we had lost a lot of people in the transition and with COVID. And I think a lot of churches experienced that during COVID.
Oh, sure.
But then about October of that same year, my daughter, Madison, had COVID. Our whole family had COVID. It was a very mild case of COVID. And we went on a road trip as a family to visit some other family members because we weren't flying at the time. And on the drive back, she was really going downhill. She was like, man, like my stomach does not feel good. My throat does not feel good. So we took her to urgent care. They told us that she had strep. And so we got her on antibiotics. And usually like after 24 hours, you start to get better. But she just kept getting worse. It got to the point where she couldn't walk. She was throwing up blood. It got like pretty severe. And so I took her to urgent care again and they sent us home. They're like, there's nothing we can do. It's antibiotics. And after another 24 hours of her progressively getting worse, I was like, we are not leaving the hospital until you figure out what's going on with my kid. So they ended up transporting her to Children's Hospital in Aurora. And through some tests, they figured out that she had something called MIS-C, which is multi-inflammatory syndrome in children. And she basically was getting fluid and inflammation in her heart, and her heart was starting to fail.
How old was she at the time?
Let's see. She was born in 2012. Have to do the math. So like I think she was about to turn 8. So real little, she had fluid around her heart. Her heart was inflamed. She also, her face was swelling up to the point where her eyes were swollen shut. She started to not even look like herself. And then there was something going on with her skin, and I don't quite understand it, but just the inflammation made her so sensitive that anything that touched her body would hurt. So like I couldn't touch her body. And it was 2020, so my husband was not allowed in the room. So I was by myself in this hospital room with my daughter. The doctor kept coming in, updating me, this is going on. We don't know if she's going to make it. Do you have any questions? And then she would leave. Come back in. She would update me with more information and then leave. And every time she'd be like, do you have questions? And I remember thinking, I have no questions for you, but all the questions for the Lord, And she would leave. And I remember going into the bathroom floor of the hospital, which was, so gross, but I just didn't even care, and just falling on my face and crying out to the Lord and saying, Lord, she belongs to you. She's never been mine, but I'm asking you to let me have her for longer. And then, of course, at the same time, if it's not your will, then I trust you, and that was a really hard prayer to pray. I thought leaving a church and letting go of a church was going to be the most devastating thing I ever experienced. And then I was like, nothing compares to thinking you're going to lose your child. So they transferred her to the ICU. And as they were getting ready to check her for spinal meningitis, that's when they started figuring out that it was in fact MIS-C. And they had a doctor at that hospital. Of course, it's like, seems coincidental, but I know it was the Lord. But she was the doctor who discovered MIS-C and also figured out the cure for it.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And at the beginning of COVID, lots of kids, I guess, died from this, but she had figured out that you could use IVIG, which is essentially like it's immunoglobulin. It's blood from other patients to fight the disease in her body. So they started her on those transfusions and she just progressively got better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long was she in the hospital?
It was only a week,
Oh my
but
goodness.
it felt like an eternity.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Because every day is a question of, is she going to make
Will
it?
she survive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So does she have any lingering effects from that?
No, which is also a miracle because I joined a Facebook page at the time. Every parent whose kid had this is just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, okay, this is what you got to look forward to when they come home. They won't be able to walk. They're going to have heart issues for the rest of their life. They're going to have neurological issues for the rest of their. She had none.
Wow.
She came home and was weak, but she gained her strength back so fast. It was
goodness.
truly miraculous to watch.
When you talk to her, how old is she now?
So she just turned 14.
Okay. Does she have a lot of memories from that
Oh,
time?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty incredible because I saw the Lord kind of awaken her spiritually through that, and she was so little, but she came out of it and she was like this little prayer warrior. She was like, God healed me and he can heal anybody. And so I would find her at church, like praying with elderly people who had ailments. I mean, she just like took on prayer.
I love it.
It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So she's, she's still completely symptom free. We kept going back for a year and they would do, heart checkups and things. And they're like, yeah, she's fine.
Oh, wow.
No issues. So that was 2020. And then, 2021 came around and we ended up having a house fire.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that part of your
Did I
story.
not share that before? Yeah. So that one was kind of interesting. We were like sleeping and we always sleep with our bedroom window open. And I was like, oh man, there's a campfire outside in the middle of the night. That's so weird. So I shut the bedroom window and then I laid back down. I'm like, nope, that smells like smoke really bad, So this is the funny part of the story. I woke up my husband and he got up, but he can't see without his glasses. So he didn't put his glasses on and he walked the house. And he's like, no, everything's fine. And he laid back down. And I'm like, there's no way. So I stand up and I turn the light on and the whole house is full of smoke.
Oh
like you can't even see
John
like
didn't even
10
have a
feet in
clue.
front of you, And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a fire. So the crazy part is it was actually Valentine's Day of 2021. I just remember that it was really, really cold. And so I'm like, what do you do when there's a fire, but it's like -6 degrees outside? So I'm like, girls, get your coats, your hats, your gloves, your shoes, like run outside, you know? So we did. And it turned out it was a fire in the garage that had started from some old, we had like a wood burning fireplace and we had cleaned it up. And it was crazy because it had been 3 days that it sat in the fireplace. And he swept it up and threw it in the trash and it rekindled after 3 days.
Wow.
Good public service announcement
Right?
for all those with wood burning
Water.
stoves. And
Always put it in water.
I thought you were going to say it was a candle from Valentine's Day. That you would have.
I mean, it was just, it felt like the wildest thing.
Yeah.
But what was really crazy is that we had gas cans in the garage and they didn't explode, which had they, that could have been a completely different story. But they, from the flames, like basically expanded, but never exploded.
Wow.
So God just really protected us again in that season. But what's crazy is once you go through almost losing your child, a house seems like nothing. So we moved out for about 6 months and lived with his parents. And we were like, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah. We're all alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
All we had was like the clothes that we took with us and everything in the house had to be remediated because of the smoke. So yeah. So that was 2021.
My goodness. Every year you're like,
Yeah,
what is it
literally.
this year, Lord?
Literally. And then in 2022, it was, so, you know, it's interesting as a believer because you're like, okay, the enemy came against my health, right? And then he came against my child's health. And he tried to take her home. Like just watching how the enemy comes against you. But God, in every single situation, has redeemed every story. Well, 2022, the enemy came against my husband in a pretty scary way. My husband is the most easygoing, funny guy. Anybody who knows him, like it's hard to even have like a super serious conversation with him because he's just a lighthearted guy. But he started having just a lot of anger, and it was a really weird time for me because I'm the more serious one in our relationship, and I was like, I don't know how to navigate this with him. Arguments that couples would have, you know, would happen, but then they would escalate to a degree that felt really unsafe. And it just felt like he was not himself and I didn't know what was going on.
Did he recognize that?
I mean, he knew that he wasn't doing well, but I don't think he knew why.
Yeah.
And I just thought maybe it's just catching up, like all the ministry and the burnout. So I went to some of our pastors at our church and I was just like, we need intervention. We need help. I don't know what to do. I just don't feel like John's well, which was really humbling.
Yeah.
Because you don't, you know, I'm like, I want to help my husband, but I don't want to like air his dirty laundry to other people. That's hard. But we're also just people and we need help right now. So they ended up kind of intervening and telling him like, hey, we need to pause and take a break. And so he went on sabbatical. And it was a couple months sabbatical. And I think at first we just thought he needs rest. Let's just try to rest. We kind of took a little family vacation. But he was not getting better. He was continuing to get more angry. And it was a really scary time for me because I, you know, have never thought of divorce. I've never thought of, you know, my husband and I aren't going to make it. But for the first time, I was like, I don't know what's the right thing to do if he's this angry around my kids.
You're not feeling safe.
Yeah. And he never was physically harmful. I was never like afraid for my physical safety, but it was getting so volatile in the home.
Wow.
That I was like, do I need to take my kids and go somewhere? You know?
Did you feel like, who did I marry? Like, this isn't the man that I married.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And this was hard because I'm like, I know it's not him. I know something is going on, but I also don't know how to help.
Yeah.
And I just remember crying out to the Lord in that season and feeling so alone because I also didn't really share with my friends at the time because most of our friends went to our church. He's a pastor. And I just, again, I'm like, I'm not about shaming him or making him look bad, you know, but I was terrified. Well, it turns out, so we were still a few weeks left of our sabbatical and I kind of checked in with the pastoral staff. I'm like, he's not doing better. I don't know what to do. And another pastor from another church was also kind of stepping in and he basically was like, he's going to go to counseling and we're just going to pay for it. So he went, and that is where God really broke his heart. He came out of counseling, and he gave me permission to share this. But he had basically had these resurfacing memories of sexual abuse that he had completely forgotten about.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You know, I think our bodies try to suppress that, and he didn't even remember it until early that year. It just started coming out, and he was remembering things, remembering places and details and faces, and it was terrifying for him. So that was a huge breakthrough for him. It was, I think, probably the scariest thing he's ever had to do, to go into counseling and kind of face what was coming up, because he's like, I don't know that I want to know. I don't know that I want to remember. I don't want to think.
I mean, really, yeah.
About it, you know? So when he came home from his intensive, he was just very broken. And he also recognized at that point, like, man, I have taken all this out on you. And that was a huge relief. But it was still, for me, kind of scary, because I'm like, is this going to really change and get better? You know, is this temporary? So it was a big year for us in our marriage, probably the hardest year of our marriage. But I can honestly say now that he's a completely different person in the best way. I think when you allow the Lord to trudge up the darkest things in your past and walk you through that and bring healing to that, that you can't come out the same.
Yeah. And isn't that just the kindness of God?
Yeah.
Like things we would rather not, like, I'm fine. I don't need to,
Totally.
We don't need to revisit that. But just that he doesn't let us stay there.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to do complete healing and transformation. So.
And it was, I mean, you know, since then it's been interesting, because he's shared it a few times, speaking at different churches. And he's like, man, every single time someone comes up to me and says, me too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for every person who comes up to him, I'm sure there's, 10 who don't, but are thinking that. Yeah.
One time he's like, this man was, I think, in his 80s, and he said it never shared with anyone. And he's like, all we can do when we have situations like that is allow the Lord to use it to minister to other people. Yeah. So we got through it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that, at that point, I'm like, okay, what's left, Lord? Like, I feel like the enemy has come against
Never
every
asked that.
different thing in my world. And God has been faithful every time to redeem. And then I would say just the most recent thing that the enemy has tried to come against in my relationship with the Lord has been friendships and relationships. And I've always heard, ministry is super lonely, pastors' wives are lonely. And I've been like, well, I'm so lucky. That's not really me. I had great friends in our church plant. I had great friends over the past decade since being back. But over this last year, maybe two, there has been major loss of friendships. And it's so interesting because in every single one of them, I'm like, you can see the hand of the enemy. You can see how he tries to divide and stir up and put people against each other. And you're just like, I can see it so clearly. And it's so frustrating.
It is frustrating. Yeah.
Because as much as you want to say that, the other people might not see it that way, And some of it has had to do with calling people out on things. And, church is like a family. And it's like in marriage, we do that. We are like, hey, I know this is happening. And I think naturally everyone's defensive and everyone's got a reason or an excuse for the way that they're behaving. But it's still, I think, our job in marriage and in family to bring those things to their attention. And
we just pull the plank out of our own eye first, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's what's been hard with some of these recent losses of relationship is, coming to the Lord and being like, I never want to come into these situations like, well, I know I'm right and they're wrong. Like, show me, Lord, what it is that I need to change, But sometimes you can only control yourself, and you can't control responses of other people. So it's been a really hard year in that sense, but I've felt, exponential growth in my walk with the Lord from it. So I remember really wrestling with God. I was walking and praying and I was like, man, Lord, it's unfair. Like I want to be able to link arms with people and walk alongside people and do this together. And he was reminding me of that passage after he was resurrected when Peter was like, well, Lord, what's going to happen to them? And he's like, well, what does that matter to you? You follow me.
I love that.
And I felt like the Lord spoke that so clearly to me. Like, it doesn't matter what I've asked them to do or what church they're going to or what ministries they want to, like, this is what you're called to do. And you need to just set your face a flint to me and you follow me.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I find myself this year. And, you know, in some ways it's like, you feel like you go through these different trials and you learn so much. You're like, okay, I've figured it out, right, Lord? Now we're good. And it's like, well, here's the next trial.
Here's another layer. We're going to peel back.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me wonder. So do you feel like there was obviously some refining that went on during that time? Do you feel like it was the same type of refining with each of these moments, with each one of these years? Or was it kind of a new lesson every time?
A new lesson, I feel like every time. Yeah.
God was doing a different work in each of those.
Totally. And, you know, I'm a worship leader, and something I feel like the common thread, I would say, is that I've learned how to worship in every season. And I remember young wondering that verse where Jesus is talking to the Samaritan about worshiping in spirit and in truth. And I was like, what does that mean? What does it mean to worship in truth? And I can see how in every single situation, there's an idea that you can believe or there's the truth about the situation, right? And it's like learning to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth in every situation was different, but it was still learning to worship him. You know, leaving my church plant and saying, well, I guess this church isn't mine, Lord. This belongs to you. You know, that was the truth of the situation, and worshiping him still, and saying that about my own child. Like, yes, I gave birth to her, but she belongs to you. That's the truth of the situation. And I'm going to worship you through that, you know, and in every situation, recognizing what is the truth and worshiping through that. So it's been a long season of learning what that verse means. But I think we all, you know, can relate to that in some way. It's like every trial brings about a new fruit in your walk.
Whew, that's amazing. I feel like that was just like a little mini sermon right there. Okay, so what did perseverance look like for you in this? Because sometimes, you know, we don't have a choice. You have to keep going. Yeah. But sometimes we do, or how we get through it. You know, what did that look like for you in all of this?
I mean, I wish I could say I was perfect in it, and I'm certainly not. I mean, after moving back from church planning, I was pretty defeated. I mean, physically not well, but also just emotionally like, I don't want to try again. Like, sure, John can take over the church. I'll attend. I don't need to like invest my heart, because I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. But the Lord was so good and patient with me, and just continued to show up. I think sometimes persevering can be like just doing what you know is the right thing, even when you don't feel like it, you know, and then the Lord starts to bring blessing and joy in that. So
what do you feel like? Like I'm reminded of Hebrews, I think it's 11:27. We just had that conversation before the show on remembering scripture here, remembering the passages. But it was, I think it was when Moses, he kept on going and kept his eyes on the one who's invisible.
Oh yeah, it talks about that. He endured as seeing him who is invisible.
Yeah. So what do you felt like kept you, like you said, worshiping in spirit and truth? Like how do you actually keep your eyes on the one that you couldn't see during those times? What helped you the most?
Man, I think that, like I said, I've known the Lord my whole life, and I just can't even imagine trying without the Lord. Like I can't imagine trying to endure illness or the loss of a child or a fire or your marriage falling apart. Like I can't even imagine trying to do those things without the Lord. And I think it just put me in such a desperate space of like, I can't even walk without you, you know? And so I don't know if that's a great answer, but it's almost like there's no other option. Yeah. And I think
took away the other options, right? And
it's kind of the beauty in it, because it's like as life continues, I think seasons ebb and flow, and learning to when things are good and when things are calm, like enjoy it. Knowing that more trials will come, but the blessing in those seasons is the intimacy with the Lord is so different. I've never felt the Lord's presence the way I felt in that hospital room, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and that's the grace of God because he supplies it when you need it. And you can say that all day long, but until you experience it, you're like, oh, dang, that is real.
You're like, okay, your grace is sufficient.
It really
like
is.
I believed it, but now I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Were there any specific truths from God's word that encouraged you? Any passages or verses?
So many.
I'm sure.
I know. I was trying to think about like, how do you even isolate, you know, especially with so many different trials.
Yeah.
I think the one that comes to mind right now is when in Philippians, it talks about learning to be content in all things. I mean, that's just like an overarching theme, right? Philippians 4:11, not that I speak in regard to need, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things, I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Which we always hear the end of that verse, right?
Thank you for reading it in context.
I can do all things. But man, all things, you know, and God can equip us and strengthen us and give us the grace in every season.
Yeah, I hear people often say it doesn't matter how you get through a hard season as long as you get through it. And I don't buy that. I don't get that because I don't think scripture agrees with that either. So we have a choice of how we walk through suffering and it really matters. So where do you land on that? Like how you persevered, how you got through that?
I would like to hope that I'm getting better, but that's never, I don't think we ever arrive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think now I'm a little quicker to be like, okay, Lord, you can look back and see his goodness and his faithfulness in every season. So you're like, okay, I have a little more confidence now, right? Like we should have a lot more confidence, but if I'm being honest, a little more confidence now. Like the Lord has always been faithful. He has always been good. He has brought something out of every single one of these trials. And so I can be confident that he will do that. No matter how hard it is, no matter how devastating, whether I want to wake up in the morning and step my foot out the door and show up at church or show up at work or whatever I am called to do. But I know that he's going to be faithful. So I can walk in that confidence.
Yeah,
you know?
That's good.
Okay. You don't have to be honest about this question, but did you, over those many years, different trials, did you ever find yourself giving into self-pity? Because I think that's kind of a sneaky one. Like we don't even realize that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a complaining spirit or whatever. And I kind of did that recently. I was like, dang, that is self-pity. That's what that is.
It's kind of the difference between suffering well and suffering poorly, right? It's when you give into self-pity.
Well, I'm feeling a little called out, but I will be honest.
I
do think this most recent one, I probably was more self-pitying in the relationship loss because I was like, man, I've, you know, in my eyes, like done all the things, like shown up and poured into and prayed with and done all the things that like X plus X should equal this. And it's like, but I did the right things and this is the result. And I think I did fall into some self-pity in this season. But like nothing is untouchable. Yeah. And we have a real enemy. He's real, you know, and he goes after whatever he can.
Yeah. Well, I think about the sovereignty of God and what he allows everything. He ordains things, you know, for our good purpose. And that's hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people, you know, in times of trial just struggle and just fall away and get angry at God and question and doubt. And it's a hard thing to worship him for his sovereignty. Yeah. And be like, it really is all in your hands. My times are in your hands, you know, whatever you want to do, Lord, you really get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I thought a lot about how the Lord was probably very lonely in ministry, you know, not to put myself on the same like level as Jesus, but if we're called to follow someone who was falsely accused and who his own friends betrayed him, his closest friends, you know, like who are we to think that that's not going to happen? You know, like it can happen to anyone and most certainly his followers. And that was just a real humbling moment for me. I'm like, I'm not greater than the Lord. Why would I be exempt from difficulty in relationships, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And those times always help me to know who I can turn to, who would understand what I'm going through, because he suffered far greater than I ever have in those categories.
He chose to take on human flesh. You know, he chose to identify with us in suffering. You know, he experienced the death of a friend. He experienced betrayal and he didn't have to.
Yeah.
He could have just made things go the way he wanted to, but he chose to do that. And I think it's for that very reason that we can come to him knowing that he knows exactly how we feel. And he's going to be the most real and present comfort in that situation.
Our sympathetic high priest.
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Well, I know you said the church in South Carolina was super supportive of you guys and helped a lot. I mean, what role did the body of Christ play in all this, whatever state you were living in? I think of Moses' brother Aaron and her holding up Moses' arms during the fight with the Amalekites in Exodus 17. You know, nobody makes it alone. So do you feel like there were some people during those times that were holding up your arms up in prayer or other ways?
Definitely. Yeah, there were definitely people who came alongside in different seasons. The Lord was always faithful to bring people. But something that really shocked me when my daughter was in the hospital was that we got a lot of meals from the people that I work with who aren't believers.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, Lord, like you're really blessing and ministering to me through those people. And there were a lot less people from the church that showed up in that time in like practical ways. And I think there's an element to that of maybe not knowing what to do in those situations. I don't want to place blame, but it was really eye-opening to be like, oh, wow, like sometimes people in the world can be a little bit better at loving than we can. And it's been good for me because I'm like, how can we show up for people in those seasons? You know, sometimes it doesn't have to be knowing what to say. It can just be dropping off a meal, giving a hug, showing up to pray, those types of things.
Yeah, we should be the best at that kind of thing.
I know, we should.
But we kind of get distracted sometimes, and we just, like you said, don't know what to do sometimes. And it's just, it's probably best to ask, right? And like, what can we do? Or just do it.
Or even just weeping with those who weep, pray, and just being present can be huge. So, This
is a big question, so you can answer it however you want. But what would you have missed if you had not gone through all of that?
Who would Carolyn Geraci be today?
Answers.
What
are a few of the things? Like, what would you have missed?
I mean, I think that the temptation for anyone, anytime you have a lot of good or a lot of success or a lot of productivity or whatever you want to call it, is to just have the temptation that, man, I'm so great. Look what we've done. Like, look how great our church is, or look how strong our marriage is. Right. And I think just obviously like learning to depend on the Lord and to know that any good thing in this life is from the Lord. And when we suffer, like, we're not exempt, and he's faithful to bring us through the suffering. And it's just kept me, I think, really humble to never try to claim success in anything. You know, I can look at my daughter's walk with the Lord and be like, that was Jesus. That she's a prayer warrior because of what he walked her through. You know, and I can look at my marriage and be like, that was all the Lord. That was not me. There's no way. I mean, had we been left to our own self to figure that season out, who knows where we would be. So just being able to really give the Lord, I think, credit where credit is due.
Have you, I don't know if it's in 2 Corinthians, I think, where it talks about the God of all comfort and how we comfort others with the comfort we've received. Have you seen ways you've been able to do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's wild, actually, how I don't think the Lord put us through any of those trials, but he certainly, after we come through them, puts people in our path who are walking through them. I cannot tell you how many people I know now who have suffered through mold illnesses that God has put in my path.
Crazy.
And now like so many people know my story that they're like, oh my gosh, I need you to talk to this girl. She's been to a million doctors and I think you can help her. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but I can share my story. And same with John and his trauma and what he walked through, like again, the Lord has brought so many people to his path. And then with my daughter as well, I think that was a big season in just learning how to show up for people. What did I need? I don't even know what I needed in that time, but the people who dropped off a meal, gosh, that blessed me so much. Or the lady who showed up and she just was like, hey, I'm in the waiting room. If you ever want to pop out, I'll pray for you. And I'm like, that was huge. She just sat in the waiting room, available to pray, So just, yeah, he's definitely given us opportunity to minister to people. Yeah.
So, Scripture talks a lot about how those seasons of suffering prepare us, for, it's kind of God's prep work for what's next. So how is all this kind of what's going on now with the church, with the family, you know, how, what are some specific things that those hard seasons got you ready for now and whatever's coming next? Is there anything that you're looking forward? Do you guys have some goals? Do you have some, hopefully not more sufferings. Hopefully, it's inevitable. Something's going to happen. But is there something coming up? You're like, this is what God's been up to. And
I'm just enjoying this restful season that we have, which is something I'm learning. Like, enjoy it when
just
it's
as
here,
hard as
because it isn't guaranteed, and we've seen that. It seems to be, like I said, ebb and flow. So knowing that there are going to be more trials to come, but I am so enjoying where our church is at right now. We have, it's still a smaller church, but I'm like seeing God start to sprout up ministries in people. Like, I can see them being like, man, God's stirring me up, and I'm not sure about what exactly, but helping people kind of identify what that is. That's so exciting to me, because I feel like we're coming out of like just the church planting season of like ministries are starting to come forward and be birthed. So that's exciting. But we also know that can come with trials, right? And so maybe that's part of it is being able to be like, okay, guys, this is exciting, but also gear up. Gird yourself, because it's a battlefield and we cannot, oh man, that was something that the Lord really hit me hard with this past season. And he gave me a picture of someone running out into a battlefield, kind of like Gladiator, but naked, like running out with zero shield or helmet or sword. And like how silly that would be, right? That would just be ridiculous. But like how many believers are like that? Like, we're just walking into ministry, walking around like we're not in a battle, and we are. And you're not waking up in the morning and putting on the helmet of salvation and the belt of truth and all of these things. Like, that was a huge conviction for me. Like, I should definitely know by now that I cannot be walking around through life without meeting with my Savior and girding myself up in his word and bringing my things to his feet. Like, he has to be the one sustaining me at all times. And I think it's really important, if we're being good leaders, to encourage other believers that way too.
That gives me great insight to these dreams I've been having about showing up to church preaching in my underwear. So,
oh my gosh.
I feel like it must be something about I don't feel prepared or something.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna pray through that.
Sorry, I can't get that image out of my mind now.
Me in my underwear?
We stream the service, so that would be good. What would you want to say to our listeners who are in a season of trial? What would you tell them?
I would say cling to the Lord. And he has everything that you need in this, and we're so limited in wisdom, but he is the Father of all wisdom, and he's going to give you the grace that you need. He's going to give you the wisdom that you need, and to not neglect spending time in his word, because he's so faithful. He's so faithful in every season to meet you exactly where you are, to give you exactly what you need. And sometimes it's daily bread, right? Like, in that hospital room, I went to that bathroom probably 15 times that day, right? Like, I just needed enough grace for the next hour. And he'll do it. He'll meet you there. He'll supply you with what you need. And when you need more, you just go right back.
Yeah, it's amazing. Praise God.
Yeah.
Well, I know you and John, and I know John's an incredible Bible teacher, and you're an incredibly gifted worship leader, and if somebody listening would like to come check out the church, what's the name of the church and the website? How do they get a hold of you guys? How do they find you?
Yeah, we're Calvary South Denver. We're in Littleton, Colorado, and you can visit our website. It's calvarycsd.org. And we meet on Sundays at 10 a.m. We have one service because we have a huge building.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah. But one service, and I actually love it because then everyone's there at the same time and we all get to spend time together. But awesome. We'd love to have you. Mm-hmm. You can also see them online. I think they stream services online on YouTube. So.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome. Yeah. Thank you, listeners, for... I would say tuning in, but it's like a radio reference. I don't know for
you're showing your age there, darling. My goodness.
I know, right? Oh boy. Anyway, how do we usually close the show? I don't even remember. We usually have an outro scripted, and I was winging it.
Well, I'll just say thank you guys so much for having me because it was really a treat and so fun to get to know you guys. Yeah, and I have actually loved listening to your podcast.
Oh, good.
So a little plug there.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah. It's great.
Shout out to our listeners. We have someone in Tokyo who listens. So if that's you in Japan, thank you for listening. But anyway, we'll see you guys next time.